Hello and welcome to another model video. This is Alan from the McConaughey at YouTube with another model video. Today I've gone back to shopping on eBay and looking at cheap airbrushes and compressors to modify and sell on, as well as share with you guys who may be buying this in other parts of the world. We have the Ophir airbrush, which is a DH103 style Hseng Sparmax clone, and we've got this remarkably mini tank, tiny Sparmax looking airbrush as well. So the set normally comes with the compressor and airbrush, or sometimes two airbrushes. We've got this Pache Stern & Hardbeck-esque like airbrush as well, so that shall be reviewed in the next video. We'll set up the compressor, check it out, and then we will test the airbrush. Straight out of the box, even though it's not too attractive how I've unboxed it, we have a 1/8 braided airbrush cord. Looks to be about a meter long. Water trap, which works a lot better than your traditional tap ones. You attach it straight to the compressor and it blocks all the water out. You do have to remove it quite frequently and let it naturally evaporate, or otherwise it'll cause some problems. If there is excess moisture, you hold down the little brass pin and it leaks completely. Now, these are built with two types of power supplies, a US and a European. The European works at 220 volts, where the American one's 120 volts. You need to buy the correct one according to your country. So they're two different models, which is different from the 12 volt compressor, which uses a variable power supply. Everything you need to know will be covered in these instructions, which I'll have a quick flip through. The airbrush just hooks in this little hole. We've got a little dial that's in PSI and bars, the output, and a very, very, very basic regulator. So realistically, everything that you need is in this tiny setup. And there we have the back with our requirements and whatnot. Yes, this is the 220 240 volt version. As the footage is a tad blurry, it pretty much puts out 23 litres a minute, stops at 45 psi, starts at 30 psi, so it's nice and ahead of our normal range of 15 to 20 psi airbrushing. The tank is 300 ml. If you're fairly conservative, that should be more than enough. Some dimensions and bits and pieces about how to safely operate it in a dry place. Don't mix with water, don't mix children, all that hoo-ha. The instructions are very basic. If you've never operated a compressor before, it's probably worth having a quick read. If you're into building, pulling apart, mechanical hacking and know what you're doing, you get a bit of a parts list and how the whole thing goes together and comes apart. Would not recommend playing around with that, but not much of the compressor. Just please be aware of power requirements. For Australian use, you may want one of these adapters. Now, after we turn it on, we can see the dial goes all the way up to 30. Fills up very, very quickly. If we want to accurately change the PSI, you allow the air to come out and you adjust the nozzle to about 10, 11, 12, whatever you need. Now, the motor may run consistently. That's not too much of a big deal. It will cut when you walk away and you're not painting at all. It is important that when you turn it off, you need to make sure all the air is drained out. Now, when you have it at full power painting at 20 psi, it seems to retain its air, but once you start fiddling with the regulator, the regulator leaks or allow air to come out to drop the output, so it's constantly leaking air. Once where the regulator is fully on, it fills the tank immediately and you can spray and whatnot. So maybe if you're taking a break, turn your regulator all the way up, and when you're back to airbrushing, go down to wherever you were spraying. Now the first free airbrush the compressor comes with, again, is a bootleg or a clone. I've used many of the brands. I've reviewed some of them on this channel and find them all to be consistently very similar. So we've got this nice case, the nozzle wrench which you have to keep, and underneath all of this the paperwork which shows you the breakdown of how far you can pull your airbrush a bit apart and what sort of parts you can get your hands on. Generally you can buy the needles and nozzles off eBay. Other parts are a bit trickier to get. I happen to deal with them, but you may need to find other dealers in other countries, unfortunately. So once, if you do buy this for the very first time, the first thing you'll want to do is pull apart and reassemble about half a dozen times to get familiar with the breakdown. So we've got our standard needle and nozzle. Always be careful not to over tighten or under tighten. When you are airbrushing, things tend to get clogged around here the most, so you want to remove that every now and then to clean. And we just quickly strip out the guts of it. And again, if this is your first time, a little petroleum jelly and a cotton swab, lubricate the inside in case paint leaks in. But it seems that this is fairly standard, except for this component. This is more standard in older Sparmax airbrushes rather than the new one. The new one would have the tongue separated from the main shaft, so it's a bit of a surprise to find that. Though the rest of it is in line as we usually see it. The seal in the air solenoid seems to be a bit chopped up or weird for some reason, and there's a bit of shit in the cup, so I'll give it a bit of a clean out as well. Not the highest quality knockoff I've come across, but it's sturdy enough with just a tad of work and a bit of cleaning, a bit of tuning, which you'll see in my Honing Your Airbrush Skills video. You can definitely get this up to specs, no problems whatsoever. So the airbrush was quicker to pull apart and put back together, a lot like an older Hseng, or sorry, older Sparmax opposed to a Hseng. The fitting was really good. Now we're going to see how it works mechanically by turning on the compressor. I've already set it to my desirable 9 psi. We've got some paint in the actual airbrush itself. And it sprays lines quite beautifully, adjusting the nozzle a bit. It's quite beautiful. And I'm painting quite fast, so the tank is actually keeping up quite nicely. If I went a lot faster, yeah, you'll see the gaps, I suppose, which I'm painting actually really fast then, but you're not seeing any gaps in between when the compressor runs out of air. So 300ml really is just enough tank space that you really need. I'm impressed. This actually performs a lot better than my compressor, which is slowly disintegrating. So yeah, the Ophir compressor and 0.3mm airbrush has my seal of approval. The Salt Mine Hobby Shop will be retailing it, and for those in other countries, United States and Europe especially, as this is marketed towards you guys, completely suitable for Gundam modelling or any type of modelling. It is going to be my compressor of choice from now on, and being pretty much a fraction of the cost of your big brands of compressors. Looking at Water, looking at Sparmax, all that sort of stuff, you're able to get into airbrushing and painting at a lot more of an affordable rate. The whole setup is more or less one of your higher ends or larger master grades. So yeah, look into it, and it's definitely got my seal of approval. The technology's been updated. It is a lot cheaper, but it's a lot more effective. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for further content. Check out Facebook for regular work in progresses or finished models built as is, as well as Twitch and other outlets. Always make sure to look at the description of every video. I normally put in sources, links, and all sorts of goodies. Catch you guys later.